There we go. How's everybody doing? So, hope you're all enjoying the weather, and it's been wet. So, now it's dry. So, before we get into tonight's topic, let me just catch up on a couple of things. I do have Philip Quinn Friday night groups. There are some new ones available for everyone that's been asking me that. Secondly, everyone that keeps asking, do I do readings via phone or internet? It's through Skype, it's through phone, it's through any sort of media that way, and FaceTime, all of that stuff. So you can go ahead and book your reading right online. And lastly, I need to say something. I do not have last-minute appointments, and what I mean by that is I've seen some people write in asking about emergency appointments, and the reason I don't is because of my waiting list, and I will not put someone else ahead of somebody else that's waiting. So unfortunately, I don't have last-minute appointments, and I don't have emergency appointments. So now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, tonight we're going to talk about the journey of the soul. The reason why I'm laughing about this is for a couple of reasons. One, periodically, I see on my Facebook somebody write a question or whatever, and I saw somebody write, Phil, I want to hear more from Isaac. So as you all know, I'm on the mower, and as I'm with Isaac, this topic came up. And I said, what should Thursday nights be? What our topic should be? So he discussed the journey of the soul. So I have Isaac with me tonight to help me through this topic, because obviously I would not be able to know this journey because I'm here in this body. So I want to let you all know why this is important, because I also see a lot of contract questions, meaning that what is my contract and what happens and why do all of these things take place. But before you even get into this contract, first of all, you have to understand what is the soul, what is the purpose of the soul, what's it doing, what is this. So the soul is a pure ball of energy. It's a pure ball of information, nothing else. And it is a remarkable ball of information, because as it passes through its lifetimes, it absorbs and it absorbs and it absorbs. So regardless if it's good or bad, it absorbs those information, it absorbs the situations that are going on, it absorbs any sort of things that it has gone through. So the main purpose of the soul is to travel. Its job is to go through lifetimes and to experience. That's the main purpose of the soul. So that's number one. Secondly, I'm going to create a journey. So meaning that when we're on the other side, and Isaac just said to me, put religion out of your mind, otherwise this will get very complicated. So let's just keep this very simple for tonight. So what he just said is, put religion out of your mind, and let's just assume the other side is the universal power, meaning that heaven is just whatever you want it to be. So as you're on the other side, and all of our souls are together, we have soul contracts with people. So the soul says, okay, I'm ready to come back to earth. It says, but before I come back to earth, I need to create something in order for me to learn, because I'm not going to come back when I've already accomplished something in a previous life. So I want to come back and re-challenge myself and or try something different that I haven't done location-wise, family-wise, whatever the situation may be. So the soul is pretty hyped up in order to do this. It's hyped up because what it wants to do is to come and experience. That's what it's there for. So during this process, the soul decides, these are the 4, 5, 6, 10, whatever your goal is, pivotal things that I need to address. And I'm going to do that when I'm here on earth. So I'm going to set these things up, because when I come back to the other side, I want to see in the soul review what I was able to accomplish, what I was able to do. Did I achieve? Did I not achieve? Because remember, when you go through the soul review, that's your whole learning process right there. That's what the soul gets to see what it does. So then it says, okay, I'm ready to go. So everyone's saying, Phil, how does this process work? I have a prop. So here's how this process works. And Isaac's laughing because I'm using this prop, but whatever. Okay, so as you're on the other side, my soul says, okay, March 28th, 1979, West Belfast, boom, I'm straight, right into my mother's body, okay? The moment that my mother gives birth, my soul enters the physical form. Your soul does not enter physical form until the moment of birth. So, as this process is happening, here comes the soul. This is a little peace pipe. It was a gift that somebody got me. So here comes the soul, and it needs a physical vessel. This prop's important. It needs a physical vessel. So as this physical vessel chooses Belfast, the soul goes, boom, this is where it's connected. So now here is the body, okay? So now I'm in West Belfast with several situations going on. One, I've chosen a war-torn country. So this stuff right here, this is all contractual. This stuff in between, this is life issues. This is just work, this is people, this is siblings, this is all of this. But this stuff right here, the leather, this is contractual. You cannot get around this. So, a lot of people get smart and they say with their contract, before I get into this, I'm going to jump to this lesson. No matter what you do, you cannot avoid step one. No matter how much you try to jump, this will always come first. It'll always flip around. Oh, this is why Isaac has me doing this. So it will always flip around, and you still have to go back to this lesson up here. So no matter what you do with your contract, no matter how much you try, you still cannot avoid whatever it is you designed. No matter how much you want to run away from it, you still cannot avoid what you have to designed. So I decided to come into West Belfast, blah, blah, blah. At the age of 6, my gift activates. I then proceed from there. But in all of this, I've also chosen certain genetic defaults. Every single one of us, my friends. Even Michael Phelps has got one. My whole point here is, when you come into this human form, you also know your limitations. You also are going to learn that there's certain things that you cannot do and there's certain things that you can do. So people may look at, oh wow, this person's a movie star or this person's a model or whatever. Every single soul is unique. We did not come here all to be movie stars, be pretty boring place. We didn't all come here to be supermodels, be pretty vain, boring place. But my whole point here is that we all came here for our own unique experience. We didn't come for double experience, and I'll explain that business in a minute. What we did come here for was that we're going to learn this journey. So now that we're in this physical vessel, and I have these physical limitations that I shared with you guys before, mine happened to be addiction. So what was I going to do? Was that contractual? Was that a human side? It was actually both. So part of my contract was I had to address this. Part of the human side was I needed the genetic component in order to address this. So I had to come into a certain family that was going to provide this. So furthermore, going through what I went through, war-torn country, blah, 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 always asking myself, why me? Then you realize years later that it was simply preparing you for something greater. And then I realized that was the first stop of the contract. Although incredibly painful, and various other things that went on, it was still part of the contract. So here Phil is starting out in his birthday, blah, 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 and he's going through all of this business, and he's 6 years old, and he's got his gift going and all of this. Now life starts to creep up when this happens, so I'm getting a little older, yada, 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 and next my major big contract comes. I come to United States of America. So I'm 13 years old when this happens. That was contractual for me. I know it was contractual for me because I knew I was coming before I even knew I was coming. I knew I was coming to America. I knew it was going to be part of my contract. So everyone's sitting here saying to themselves, well, Phil, you're able to see what's part of your contract. No, no. Phil does not get a special window into any of this here. What happens is, because the soul is housed inside this physical form, it doesn't care what the physical form looks like. What it does is, it's inside this physical form. It still is speaking to you. So my soul speaks to me through my gut. Your gut reaction is your soul speaking to you. That is your divine connection. And Isaac says this is what everyone seems to disconnect from. That they feel that the clouds have got to open up and God has got to speak and say, this is what you must do. But that's not how it works. There's a lot of souls on the planet. So your soul speaks to you through your gut. Your gut then hopefully will then respond. Now, everyone's going to be out there saying, what about bad people? There are no bad souls. There are unevolved people, but there are no bad souls. Now, I know you're all going to throw Hitler some sort of bullshit at me, but here's my knowledge to you. There are no bad souls. There are genetically screwed up people due to circumstances, due to life, due to this. But the soul is always speaking to them to tell them to overcome whatever it is they're trying to overcome. The soul is always in a form of light. The soul is always in a form of good. There is no negative souls. the physical form is what makes people do negative things. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that they want to say, that's a bad soul and that's why they did this. No, it's actually the physical form. The soul is trying to overcome whatever bad things are trying to do. Now, part of this whole process of when I came to Earth, and although this is my first lifetime, but let's use Jasper in this case. So Jasper would have several lifetimes prior to this. So why don't you remember your previous lifetimes? Well, you can't remember something that took place in the 1700s and live here and now. And the reason being is you would be you would feel like you're schizophrenic. You would have people saying, well, I have memory of this and memory of that. And it would be very convoluted to try and get through your contract. It would be very difficult to get through your contract. What you are allowed to do is bring the knowledge in. And that's why we hear some people are old souls, some people are young souls, some people are indigo kids. I'll do a special on indigo kids because people are asking me. But one of the things that you're allowed to do is bring in the knowledge, and that knowledge allows you to progress through your life. It allows you to get through whatever it is. Now, some of these contracts that we have designed are painful. There is no doubt. There is absolutely no doubt. There are contracts where people will say to me, Phil, are you telling me that I lost my kid and that was contractual? It may have been. Or it may not have been, because there are tragic deaths and there are accidental deaths and there are so on and so forth. But sometimes, or a lot of times, there's certain things that are absolutely contractual. The same thing with meeting your partner, the same thing with meeting friendships, the same thing with meeting whoever it is. We know each other on the other side. And what we do say is, I'm going to meet you. I'm going to meet you here. At a certain point in our life, I'm going to meet you here for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And this is how the souls work. And we do that because we evolve each other by doing that, saying, I knew you from the other side. I'm going to help you here at this juncture in your life. And I may not see you again after that, but I'm here in your life for this particular reason. So we also cycle through souls, and meaning that certain souls come into us because we need certain help in our lives. But if we go back to the contract, and people always saying to me, or not always saying to me, ask me, how do I get unstuck? You still have to go back to what Isaac's saying, which is you still have to address how you began. Whatever the repetitive theme is your life. So I was just talking to somebody, long story short, in a relationship for the past 40 years. Zero has changed. Zero zip. My point is, that individual has remained in a relationship for 40 years hoping that somebody would become something they never were. At no point have they left this spot. And this is not judgmental, this is not anything, but at some point, you will say to yourself, do or die. Meaning that the other side will force it and force it and force it. They will just sit there and wait with you through your entire life until you get the message. And sometimes the message is painful. Sometimes the message means letting go. Sometimes the message means moving on forward. Sometimes the message means putting yourself first, which is even harder than letting go, because nobody wants to be selfish. But most importantly, the biggest thing is getting through what you designed and listening to yourself. Where people get caught up is they don't listen to their gut reaction. Your gut is your soul talking to you. I see a hand from Jasper. Go ahead, hon.
Mike and Angie want to know, do we keep coming back until we achieve it right? Then if not, why do we just keep coming back?
So there's a big misconception is, if I don't do it right, I have to come back. That's absolutely not true. Well, the reason why we come back is we want to experience various lifetimes. We want to experience different periods in history. We want to experience different methods, technology, diseases, whatever the situation may be. But paradise gets a little boring, believe it or not. And anyone that has been away in paradise, after a while you're like, kind of need something to do. So again, because the soul does have a purpose, that's why it constantly recycles. Our lifetime is very short to them. So I understand that most of us want to avoid pain, but Isaac says pain is one of the things that evolves us. We don't really evolve through joy. And I know people would argue with that, but we really don't. And it's through monumental tasks or life-changing tasks do we have to go through this. Go ahead, hon.
Alicia and Caroline want to know, do children choose their parents or step-parents?
So, great question. Do children choose their parents or step-parents? 100%. We know the parent we're going to. Now, I know, don't jump on me here and be like, why did I choose my parent? Listen, you chose the person that was going to be best able to prepare you for the contract that you've set out to design. Some of us pick harder contracts, some of us pick easier contracts, some of us pick medium contracts, whatever the situation is. Remember, sometimes you're starting out, so you're not going to go jumping in, 10 feet deep. You're going to want to start out small. And that's when people get into this, my kid won't do this, my kid won't do that. Well, it depends on what type of child they are. If they're the indigo kid, if they're a new soul, if they're nervous, things like that. Go ahead, babe.
Sherry wants to know, how do I know if my loved one has completed their contract?
So how do you know if somebody's completed their contract? Well, until the individual goes through the soul review, how do you complete something? Isaac says there's no completion. Nobody leaves here with 100%. He says it's impossible. He said, think about that. He said, you've already begun your contract. He says, there's no way can you live your life 100% accomplishing everything. He says, say it again. He says, the message is that you attempt, that you make effort, and you strive. He says, that's the most important part. It's not actually the completion. It's that you face your fear. And by facing your fear, it no longer has power over us, he says. And if it doesn't have power over you, you can't ruminate in fear. And by not ruminating in fear, you live a life of freedom. I don't know why you just didn't say that last week. Anyway, go ahead.
So I don't get it. Aren't we supposed to be happy in this life? I don't understand. I understand experiencing some challenges, but my entire life is drama and pain. What's up with that?
So, aren't we supposed to be happy completely in this life? No! I've never met a single person in this lifetime, in all the years that I've done this, who've said, I've had an absolute perfect life. We all experience... Pain is relative, right? It's different for each individual. So, unless it happens to you, you can't really understand what it's like. And secondly, even if it has happened to you, you can only then relate. This is not a pain-free world. We all know that. Coming to Earth, we knew this was not a pain-free world. For the goodness sake, just take a look around you. But what it is a world in need of mending. And that's why we're here on a Thursday night, Isaac says. He says, it's just a place where we can better ourselves. And better ourselves means that the more that we send out into the world that is positive, the better the world gets. You pick up a little plastic, you do a little recycling, whatever the situation may be. He says, but leaving the imprint of something positive behind is what matters. Go ahead.
So how do you know if what you're experiencing is contractual or just crap on this earth?
So the great part is, how do you know if something... Well, someone's just asked a great question here. So are some of these things... Do people come to the world as a catalyst of sorts? Absolutely. Certain souls come here in order to start and to prevent. There's certain souls that come here to create and take away disease. There's certain souls that come here simply as teachers. There's souls that have come here in order to just give the world the next piece of information that they need in order to evolve them. So, and all of us contribute to this here. All of us are adding to this one form or another. Why it's an illness, why it's overcoming an illness. And every time that we succeed at this here, it's one step forward for humanity that we're hopefully better in ourselves. And again, not just ourselves, but all the living things, our animals, our plants, and all of those beautiful things that we're given. Because we are, Isaac says, on a living, breathing planet. He says, we walk on it. It doesn't walk on us. He says, and that's one of the things that humanity has left out. And Isaac isn't preachy, but he says, but what he's saying is, we are part of a living being. And because you are part of a living being, your soul can sustain itself because it needs an energy source in order to sustain itself. He says, so killing that energy prevents you from having experiences. He says, so it's quite complicated, and that's why religion is not as important as understanding what the soul's journey is. Every soul comes to earth to leave a better imprint. No, it doesn't always happen. No, it doesn't always work out. Yes, terrible things happen, but I have watched terrible things happen and a lot of good come out of it, and vice versa. But hopefully we can leave something positive. Go ahead, hon.
Jason wants to know, do we know before we come here how we pass away?
Yes, you know how you're going to die before you come here. Sometimes you pick your death. Sometimes you're okay with your death. You're just like, I'll die of old age. It's all up to what you do. And then there's reckless death, meaning that you know you shouldn't be doing something, your gut's telling you to stay away from it, and you still do it anyway. So that's not necessarily contractual. So there's that as well.
Where in the body does the soul live? The heart? The brain?
So the soul doesn't live anywhere other than it inhabits the physical body. See, the soul doesn't have a form. This is what screws everybody up. They think that, when I cross over, I'm going to look like this. I'm not going to look like this. The soul projects itself the way that you remember it to be. That's how I'm able to do reading. So then I translate that information back to you and so on and so forth. But remember, the soul could have had 10 lives. So it can project itself in any way that it needs to based on the lifetime that it had before. So it's energy that lives in the solar plexus, which is right above the navel, and that's your gut. And that's where it does all its form of communication, because that's the doorway to the soul. So, and because that's the doorway to the soul, that's always the first place where you protect. You always cross your arms. So anytime you feel nervous, anytime you feel anxious, anytime you feel threatened, anytime you feel blah. Go ahead, babe.
Kareem wants to know, do we choose our contract or does it choose us?
Oh, you choose your contract. Yes. Oh, you very much. You over there with the checklist, and you're like, mm-hmm. And I know you're all saying, you're like, I can't believe I chose that son of a bitch. Uh-huh. And I can't believe I work with this person. Mm-hmm. And so that's a human part. And then you're thinking like, well, the relationship part, that part of that is contractual. And then the human part can be people that you work with. So, but you absolutely design the contract without a doubt. And your children choose you. You cannot get pregnant unless a child chooses you. Unless your contract states that that you're going to adopt a child, not have a child, whatever the situation may be. Go ahead.
Catherine says, I understand every soul is different, but generally, is there something that all new souls have in their contracts? Is there something all new souls need to learn in their first experience in the physical form?
Yes, so pretty much what Catherine is asking is, when a new soul first comes to Earth, and that's why I should do a special on indigo children, when a new soul is first comes to Earth, is there something that needs to learn? And the answer to that question is very simple, Isaac says. He says, the first thing a soul needs to learn is courage. So, because they don't quite understand what that is yet. So a lot of people may say, Phil, my kid's not leaving the house, my kid's not using their degree, my kid's not doing this here. And it's because an indigo child doesn't quite have courage yet, or a new child doesn't quite have courage yet, because they're still trying to get out of the nest. So the biggest thing Isaac says in that instant is, try it. It's better to try it than not to try it. Always. It's better to take the food out of your mouth than to say I didn't eat it. Honest to God, you should really do that. Somebody just asked a question here. So, what does it mean if you have a soulmate? Okay. Well, it could mean two things. It could mean that you have found the love of your life, or you found the person that you're supposed to stay away from. Now, what do you mean by the person you're supposed to stay away from? Well, you two could have possibly said on the other side, hey, we need to do some distance because we've been too codependent in previous lifetimes, so we're going to try and stay away from each other. Or you may say, we're going to meet up again because we had such a great time on this. So, depending on what your circumstances are, a soulmate is either a blessing or can be a curse. A lot of times in this case where soulmates is, they come to Earth because they like and enjoy being together. A lot of souls want to experience other things. A lot of souls want to explore. But soulmates they're like lovebirds. They cannot be apart. They just simply cannot be apart. Or they cannot be together because they're paired wrong. Go ahead, babe.
Sherry wants to know, how do we know if a death of a loved one is accidental or a part of their contract?
So it really depends on the individual and how they pass. Here's what Isaac just said to that question in order to answer that question. It's irrelevant how the individual dies. Everyone focuses on the manner of death. That somehow that determines if the contract ended well or not. It says that is irrelevant. It's how you lived through the contract is what the most important part is. Death does not define us. It's just that part is just the beginning. It's how we lived our life on earth is how it defines us. So Isaac says, regardless if somebody died early or if somebody dies later in their life, it's what they did in their life is what matters, not how they died. Go ahead, babe.
Stephanie wants to know, is it fear that makes us question our gut? I think I overthink a lot.
So is it fear that makes us question our gut? So first things first, and let me just say this to you. When you ask yourself a question and you have an immediate reaction and you feel that gut reaction, that's your soul telling you, yo, that's what you're supposed to do here. We signed up for this business, so let's go this way. Then you say to yourself, ooh, that sounds tricky and hard, so let me think about this more. And the more I think about this, the less I have to do it. So it's the human part kicking in to say, I don't want to deal with my anxiety. So we perseverate on things in order not to move forward. But we do that because we're tricking ourselves into thinking we're actually being busy and doing stuff. We're actually not doing shit. So we're just sitting there trying to get by phase 1. So what you want to do in this case is take a leap. Just try. Go ahead, babe.
Karen says, I always try to stay positive. Will this hold me back from my contract because I'm trying to avoid negativity?
Yes. And someone just asked me, does everyone have a soulmate here on Earth? Nope. And I know that sounds incredibly negative, but no. We don't all come in. Listen, everyone, we don't all come in here to find super love. As much as society makes you want to do that, there are a lot of lonely people in the world. There are a lot of people who've never met somebody. There are a lot of people fighting illnesses and so on and so forth that you can't even possibly imagine. But a lot of people are under the impression you're supposed to get married and da-da-da-da. Yeah, yes, I understand we're in America and we do this here. But if you look at this on a global scale, we're here to learn as much as we possibly can. So, and that's the core essence of what the soul is. Go ahead, babe.
But that feeling in your gut could also mean a warning not to do something, right?
Correct. That pit in your gut will also say, don't go there. And then the head will come back to it and be like, ooh, but I should because I like bad boys. And the gut's like, no, you don't. You don't like no bad boy. Because the last one didn't work out. And you're like, no, but I do. And then you get burned again. And then the gut's like, look, we're going to keep getting burned until you get this. So you can like as many bad boys, bad girls as you like, but we're going to sit on this, and we can sit there for the rest of your days. And I swear to you, I have watched people bypass their entire lifetime because they will not face a fear. Simply will not face it. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Luke wants to know, to what degree is the contract planned? Are the random people I interact with on holiday pre-planned, for example?
No, that's human. So interaction with people that you're just passing in the airport, blah, blah, blah. But when you interact with something and you have an instant, strong connection, even though you've never met the person, that's pre-planned. So I have that with various friendships in my life that, boom, instantaneous. Like we knew each other on the other side. So, and those people were brought into your life for a specific reason, not either at that time or all the way around. But so there's certain people you just, remember, you could be the messenger in someone else's life. Isaac says, this is what people forget. You're not always going to be getting messages. Sometimes you have to be the messenger. So a lot of people seem to forget that their job too is to give back. It's not always to receive. He says, and this is what we do here, meaning on Thursday nights, he says, it's to give back. It's to give out. It's to release. It's to let love out. He says it's not always about receiving, because we've conditioned ourselves more. And Isaac says actually less means less problems. So just give it a little try. Someone's asking, what's deja vu? That's your reconnection with one of your previous lives. That's connecting, saying, oh, I'm crossing an energy path or a place that I once was. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I have, when a soul crosses over, does the memory of all the past lives come back to them? That's my friend Chester.
Yeah, so when you pass over, all lifetimes, all memories, all situations that you have gone through are all returned to you. Not only that, when you cross over, anybody that you may have had a troubled relationship with, anyone that you may have struggled with, parents, siblings, whoever it may be, you're able to discuss that without ego and pride. You're able to discuss that without anybody feeling threatened or their emotions may be hurt or whatever that situation may be. So there's a healing in the soul process. So, and there's very much a healing in that once you crossed over, you get to talk about, well, this happened to me and that happened to me. But that goes on through the soul review. So hopefully Isaac says this in a very short, rudimentary way describes what the journey of the soul is. Remember, he says it's not about a job. It's not about who has the most likes on Facebook. It's about how you lived your life here on earth. Some people want to live it quietly. Some people want to live it in a large manner. But he says the most important part is that you live your truth in whatever organic form that may be. So if you can do that, you're way ahead of many. And he says, meaning that don't follow the footsteps of someone else. Follow your gut. Your gut will never lead you astray. It is your direct connection to your contract, and your contract will teach you not only what you're going to overcome, but how you're going to succeed, because it's laid out positive things. Those things that we laid out for ourselves aren't all negative things, Isaac says. There's a lot of joy in them. Children are created in them. Relationships are created in them. Successes and failures are created in them. But he says, most importantly, you're evolving, you're growing, and if you're giving out and you're giving back, then you truly are succeeding. He says, and that is the journey of the soul. So I love you all. I don't think I'm going to be here next Thursday, but if I am, I will let you know. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for the responses. And listen, I want to say one other thing. As far as Greg goes, Greg and I are going to be creating a program, and people keep asking, is Greg a medium? And Greg is not a medium. Greg is someone, Greg and I are going to figure out how to do this here together, because I have to introduce you to him. It's really important. So, but anyway, I'll see you all soon, and I will talk to you. Thank you, guys. Talk to you soon. And Isaac says good night.